The telemetry receiver broke the dawn's silence with a signal that had no business existing. Frequency G-47, a collar deployed 32 years ago, blazed on the screen like a live nerve.
That collar's battery should have died before some of my interns were born. Database says G-47, deployed 1991, bare pier tooth, deceased 1998. Collar never recovered.
The signal strength climbed. Somewhere in the Absaroka wilderness, a 3-decade-old collar was transmitting as if brand new.
Max battery life is 14 years. This has been out here for over 2 decades. It should be silent.
She checked the frequency lock. No error. The signal was real, consistent, and broadcasting on the exact channel assigned in 1991.
Glitch, database error, hoax. None of it fits. The raw data doesn't lie.
Kathleen marked the coordinates on her GPS. The signal drew a straight line into the deepest, least traveled corner of the wilderness. She should log it as an anomaly and move on. Instead, she tightened her pack straps and followed the beep into the timber. The pines closed behind her, and the morning dimmed to a permanent dusk under the canopy.
The forest felt wrong. Too quiet, the kind of silence that listens.
The receiver's pace quickened, signal bars jumping in erratic surges as if the transmission itself was agitated.
This isn't how a collar behaves. It's like it knows I am following.
She halted, scanning the trees. No trail, no game path. The coordinates said 26 miles deep into the Absaroka, a place maps showed as blank contour lines.
Nobody backpacks out here. No reason to.
Far below the ridgeline, the wilderness opened into a meadow ringed by deadfall timber, exactly where the GPS placed the beacon.
The collar shouldn't be in a meadow. Grizzly's bed in thick timber, not open grass in daylight.
She zoomed in. The coordinates hadn't drifted. The signal pulsed steady now, patient.
One look, document it, then get out. Don't let it see you first.
She edged forward until the trees broke, and there, 200 yards across the meadow, a grizzly stood on its hind legs, scenting the wind.
That bear isn't supposed to exist. Beartooth died in '98.
Through her binoculars, the dark band around its neck snapped into focus. A leather collar, oxidized bronze tag glinting.
That collar should have disintegrated decades ago. It's physically impossible.
The legend on the tag was still legible. USFWS G-47, 1991, the original service tag.
It's the same collar, the one that should have been silent for decades.
The bear dropped to all fours and turned its head, the massive skull swinging toward her hiding place as if it had known she was there all along.
Don't move. Don't breathe.
Kathleen raised the camera, hands trembling so badly the lens ring rattled. She squeezed the shutter.
I have proof. Now I have to get this to the office.
She backed away from the tripod, not turning her back. The bear's eyes a physical weight through the lens. Only when the trees closed between them did she exhale and let the camera hang from her neck.
Every frame showed the same thing. A young bear wearing a collar that should have rotted off decades ago.
She ran through the possibilities. A reused collar, a lost collar placed on a new bear, a database error, none held.
Beartooth died in '98. The collar was never recovered, but the battery, it couldn't transmit.
She glanced back. The receiver's signal was still strong, the beep a steady pulse against her hip.
I need the original deployment file. Who placed this collar? And why did they leave it out here?
By the time she reached her truck, the sun was high, and she'd walked the 16 miles back in a daze. She didn't radio it in. She needed facts first. The archive at the research office held the answers. The regional archives smelled of old paper and dust. Kathleen had clearance, but the basement stacks always felt like a mausoleum for dead science. She found the drawer marked Cold Cases 1990, 1995 and pulled it open on grading rollers. Inside, a single manila envelope, thin but heavy with the weight of decades. The first item she pulled was an 8 by 10 photo of a tranquilized grizzly, Beartooth, wearing collar, G. Nagus 47 in 1991. She keyed Carruthers, John, into the green screen terminal. A single record blinked back. The screen spat out a minimal file. John Carruthers, deceased 1991. Caller G47, deployed 4 weeks earlier, never recovered.
This caller has been out there for 22 years, transmitting. It should be dead a dozen times over.
No recovery certificate existed. The paperwork simply stopped with Beartooth's death in 1998. Kathleen closed the file. The name Carruthers was a door she wasn't sure she wanted to open, but she tucked the envelope under her arm anyway. She needed to know what happened to the man who collared Beartooth. The next morning, Kathleen returned to the archive before the office opened. Pulling the thin drawer marked Carruthers, J. Inside lay a memorial file, a single photograph clipped to a brief bio. John Carruthers, bearded and grinning, knelt beside a heavily sedated Beartooth.
He looked competent, the kind of biologist who knew these mountains better than anyone.
The file's incident report was short. Cause of death: accidental fall, body recovered. Field equipment never found.
They found his body, but not his radio, not his dart rifle, none of it.
Her hands trembled. The missing equipment meant one possibility. Someone or something had been there after he fell. She imagined him hiking alone into the Absaroka in 1991. The same silent timber, the same signal pulling him deeper.
What did you see out there, John? What did you find?
She closed the file, but the photo she photocopied and tucked into her field notebook, a face she couldn't shake.
I need his original deployment notes. The official log stops too clean. There has to be more.
Back at her field station, Kathleen taped the photocopied photo of Beartooth beside her own shot of the collared bear.
The white blaze on the chest. Same shape, same size, same slight leftward tilt. It can't be coincidence.
She overlaid the digital image with the 1991 print. The blaze pattern was not just similar, it was identical.
No two bears share identical markings. This is either Beartooth's descendant or something that shouldn't be wearing that collar.
She drove to the wilderness boundary and powered on the receiver, hoping to verify the bear's position.
The signal is flickering, jumping from bearing 120 to 080, then back. It's not supposed to behave like this.
She triangulated 3 times, and each time the coordinates traced a slow, deliberate circle around her position. The collar was not broadcasting, it was responding. The thought made her clip the receiver to her belt and walk faster toward the truck. That night, she drafted a preliminary report to the research coordinator attaching the photos, the database anomaly, and a single question: please explain. She sent the email before she could second-guess herself. Then she sat alone in the dark of her truck, waiting for an answer she already feared. 3 weeks passed without a word. The research office didn't even acknowledge her report.
They're ignoring it, or they don't know what to do with it. Either way, I can't just wait.
She returned to the USFWS archive on a Thursday evening when the staff had left and the basement belonged to the dust. In the back corner, behind a curtain of cobwebs, she found a wooden crate marked Misc Field. Materials 1990 to 1994, not indexed. Inside, beneath rusted dart guns and moldy map tubes, lay a single leather-bound journal. The cover was worn smooth, the name J. Carruthers embossed in faded gold.
This was never logged. It's not in any catalog. It's his private record.
She opened it just enough to see the date of the first entry, April 1991. His handwriting, dense and immediate. She didn't read further. Not there. She signed the sign-out sheet with a hand that shook.
Whatever happened to you, John, it starts here.
Back at her field cabin, Kathleen lit the headlamp and opened John Carruthers' journal to the first entry. G-47 deployed successfully on a mature male, approximate age 8, bear exhibited standard post-sedation recovery.
Standard field notes. He was just doing his job.
The bear returned to the bait site 3 nights in a row. It watches the camp. I've never seen a grizzly this deliberate.
That's not normal bear behavior. They avoid humans after collaring.
Today I followed the signal into the timber. Beartooth was waiting. He did not flee. He turned his head and met my eyes. For a long moment, he looked at me as if recognizing me.
Those were my words. That same unease when the bear turned its head toward me.
She closed the journal, but the words had already planted themselves. She didn't sleep that night.
John, you felt it too. What did it mean?
When she opened the journal again the next morning, the later entries were worse. I dream of him every night, the bear at the edge of the firelight. He doesn't move. He just watches. Last night, the collar signal started pulsing at 2 a.m. The bear is circling camp. The entries shortened. The handwriting became angular, pressed so hard it left grooves in the paper. October 14th, the bear came back. It shouldn't have, but it did. The sentence ended mid-word.
4 days later, his body was found. This notebook was never logged. I am the first to read it in 30 years. This isn't a science log. It's a descent. He was losing himself out there.
She felt the same pull John had described, like the signal was a voice and it was speaking her name.
I can't submit this. The office would bury it. Or worse, they might use it to justify shutting down the whole study.
She locked the journal in the glove box and drove away, the Absaroka watching in the rear view. 6 months passed with no word from the USFWS research office. Then, in late October, a single sealed envelope appeared in her field station mail slot. She sliced it open with a field knife, her fingers cold. The letter inside was a single paragraph on heavy bond paper, effective immediately. You are directed to discontinue all tracking operations related to collar G-47 and reassign the associated frequency band. This directive is final and not subject to appeal. Further correspondence on this matter will not be entertained.
No explanation. No acknowledgement of my report. They don't even mention the bear.
The paper buckled in her grip. The order didn't read like protocol. It read like a threat.
They know something. Something. They're not telling me, or something they want buried.
She sat heavily at the table, the letter beside John Carruthers' journal. The official silence next to the private scream.
You were right, John. This story doesn't want to be told, but I am not going to be the one to bury it.
She stood before the evidence wall, the timeline of 30 years condensed into red string and pushpins.
John deployed the collar 4 weeks before he died. He saw the same blaze, the same look. He knew it was impossible.
If she complied, the file would close, the frequency scrubbed. The bear would become a ghost.
I am not him. I am not walking into those woods and never coming out. But I am not walking away either.
The order sat on the table, final. It offered her career intact and a clean slate.
That letter is a lie. They know it, and I know it. Whatever is out there, it's real, and it's still broadcasting.
She walked to the truck and opened the hidden compartment behind the glove box, the same place she'd locked John's journal. She slid the sealed letter in beside the leather-bound notebook. The official silence and the private scream, side by side.
I'll keep the receiver on me. I'll track it quietly. But I won't bury it. I don't know where this leads, but I have to see it through.
3 days later, Kathleen hiked into the Absaroka with only a small stealth receiver, its antenna tucked inside her jacket.
The signal didn't match any game trail. It sliced through deadfall and scree, a line as deliberate as a compass bearing.
The landscape matched a rough pencil sketch in John's journal, a granite outcropping shaped like a fist, exactly where he'd drawn it.
This is his route, his coordinates. I am walking where he walked.
She slowed, listening. The receiver pinged faster, then halted, then resumed in sporadic bursts. Ahead, in a hollow between 2 fallen pines, lay the remains of a campsite, rusted cookware, a canvas tarp in shreds. She knelt beside a collapsed orange tent, its nylon turned brittle. The poles snapped like twigs.
This was his, John's last camp.
The collar signal beeped from the forest beyond, but no bear appeared. The receiver pulsed as if keeping time.
I am standing where he stood 4 days before he died. He was listening to the same sound.
Beside the tent, a flat rock covered a weatherproof box. Kathleen lifted it, the metal cold and unrusted. Inside, sealed, inside a plastic bag, were three things: a broken compass, a folded letter, and a collar.
This collar is identical to G-47. Same buckle, same weave, but there's no battery module, no tag. It's pristine. It was never used. John prepared a spare.
She unfolded the letter. It began, "My dearest Mary, if you are reading this, I am already gone." The letter ended mid-sentence, ink dripping off the page as if he'd been interrupted.
He planned to swap collars. Maybe he thought he could track something else, or that the original would stop, but the collar is on that bear, and it's broadcasting. A spare means the collar I photographed wasn't the first one. I can't bring this back. The office would lock it away forever, and me along with it. Leave it, or take it. Either way, I am holding proof of something that shouldn't exist.
Kathleen photographed the spare collar and the letter, then sealed the box and slid it back under the rock. She stood, turning away from John's camp, when the stealth receiver in her pocket shrieked a signal lock. The bearing was 0 yards. The receiver's audio screamed a steady tone. She lifted her eyes. At the edge of the clearing, the collared Grizzly stood motionless, watching Hurley 3's tin.
He's been here the whole time, waiting.
The bear's eyes were not aggressive. They reflected something closer to recognition, exactly as John had written.
I am not Kathleen right now. I am him. I am standing in his boots, seeing what he saw.
She didn't run. She didn't lower her gaze. The bear held her eyes for a long, slow breath, then turned and disappeared into the timber. The signal faded with it, and when the forest was silent, Kathleen's legs gave out. She knelt in the pine needles, shaking.
It let me go. Just like it let him go. And he didn't make it out.
She found her way back to the truck, but the 18-mile hike passed in a blank.
The look that Bear gave me wasn't a threat. It was a message I don't know how to read.
The USFWS order now read like an attempt to contain something they could not explain.
John didn't die by accident. He was consumed by the same pull I am feeling now.
She couldn't report it. She couldn't destroy it. The only path was to hide the signal, protect it.
I need a frequency hopping module. I'll reassign G-47 to a ghost channel only my receiver can hear.
At the base of the rusted tower, she opened the weatherproof panel and began reprogramming the assignment logs. The official network would show G-47 as decommissioned. But on her personal receiver, it would still pulse.
I am burying it alive, and if they find out, I lose everything.
She locked the module in place and stepped back, the tower humming above her. The choice was made. As the lock clicked home, the official log refreshed. G-47 blinked once and vanished from the network, as if it had never been. Then her personal receiver, clipped to her belt, emitted a single, deliberate ping.
That's not a diagnostic tone. It's the collar. It knows the channel changed.
She pulled the receiver from her pocket. The screen read, G-47, signal locked, bearing 187 degrees, distance 26.4 miles, the same distance, the same direction. The bear hadn't moved. Kathleen stood frozen in the tower's shadow, the wind pulling snow across the panel. She closed the weatherproof cover and turned the bolts until they bit into the rusted frame.
It's done. No one else will hear this frequency. It's just me and whatever is out there.
The receiver pinged again, a softer beat, as if settling. She packed her tools, the weight of the decision pressing down, and walked back to the truck under a darkening sky. Months passed. Kathleen took no assignments that brought her within 20 miles of the Absaroka boundary. The personal receiver stayed locked in her glove box, its green glow only visible when she checked her equipment. One night, after a long elk survey on the far side of the park, she sat in her dark truck and pulled it out.
Let's see if you are still there.
The signal locked instantly. Strength 9, bearing unchanged, distance exactly 26.4 miles.
Still broadcasting. The bear is alive.
She expected dread, but what came was quieter. The signal was a constant, a pulse that asked nothing of her.
Maybe that's all this is. Not a mystery to solve, just a thing that exists. I can live with that.
She set the receiver back in the glove box, but didn't power it down. The green light flickered, then steadied. Outside, the Absaroka lay in darkness, and somewhere in that dark, a caller beeped on. In her home office, Kathleen sat with a blank journal page before her, the photo of John Carruthers watching from the windowsill.
I never told anyone about the spare collar or your journal. It felt like a betrayal of something sacred.
She uncapped her pen and began writing, the words a letter 30 years overdue.
John, I think I understand now. You weren't just tracking a bear. You were chasing something you couldn't name. Maybe you let the bear get too close because you thought proximity would give you answers.
She described the look the bear had given her, the same recognition John had written about, and how it had not been threatening.
I forgive you, John, and I think that's the same as forgiving myself.
She closed the journal and rested her palm on the cover, the weight of it lighter than it had been in years.
The signal won't stop, and I am okay with that.
Outside her window, the Absaroka stood silent under the snow, and deep in that silence the collar beeped on. A year later, Kathleen stood on a sagebrush ridge tracking a collared elk, her work routine and clean. She paused, shielding her eyes, and looked east, toward the distant Absaroka range, blue-gray in the haze. She reached into her pack and pulled out the personal receiver, its screen worn but still glowing. The signal for G-47 locked immediately, the distance unchanged, the bearing steady as a heartbeat.
Still there. Of course you are.
She let the beep fill the quiet for a moment, a familiar pulse that was no longer a disruption. Then she powered down the receiver, tucked it back into the pack, and picked up the elk antenna. The mystery had not been solved, only accepted. The bear was out there, and that was enough. Kathleen still does research in Yellowstone. She no longer tracks bear G-47, but deep in the Absaroka, on a frequency no one is listening to, the signal continues to broadcast. Years later, on a winter night at her cabin, Kathleen sat beside a crackling stove, the scanner humming on the shelf. A loose frequency hiccuped through the speaker, a single pulse she hadn't heard on that band in ages. She froze, then recognized the rhythm. G-47, the ghost signal. It was weaker now, as if the source had moved deeper into the wild, but it was still there. She didn't reach for the logbook. She didn't calculate the bearing. She just listened. The beep came again, a soft punctuation in the quiet, and then settled into a regular pulse.
It's just the wind outside, the cold, the dark, and that sound. It's almost comforting now.
She let the scanner run for an hour, the signal a steady companion beside the fire. Then she turned it off, the room falling silent except for the crackle of the stove. Outside, the wind howled through the Absaroka, and the collar beeped on in the dark. The seasons turned over the Absaroka. Winter buried the meadow in silence. Spring thawed the same trails. Through the cycles, the bear moved unchanged, a constant in a changing world. In the deep dusk of an August evening, the old Grizzly crossed the meadow one last time in the day's light. In Kathleen's cabin, on a shelf beside John's photograph, the personal receiver blinked green. The screen held the same bearing, the same distance, a record of the unending. The camera pulls back from the shelf, the room fading into the dark of the wilderness outside. And deep in that dark, the collar beeped, a single clear pulse across the miles. Then the pulse faded, the static ebbed, and the screen went black. The silence held for 3 seconds, 4, then a single soft beep.